Hey guys, I'm recording this one a little bit late because I'm in my pajamas. So I'm just gonna skip the whole intro thing. I'm just gonna be right into the bizarre death of Gloria Ramirez and, you know, reacting for the Valentine's Day marathon. And yeah, I'm a little sleepy. And this one's not so scary, so I'm just leaving my stuffed animals over there. They're chilling. And in case you're worrying about the cow from the last one, yeah, it's in the medium load. So that'll be ready whenever. Anyway, three, two, one, play.
This week on Buzzfeed Unsolved, we cover the puzzling case of Gloria Ramirez, or as she's more known on the internet, the Toxic Woman. Her death is... yeah.
Don't cite the internet.
Her case is so bizarre that it actually served as the inspiration for an episode of The X-Files and many other TV shows. Right now, we're on our way to Riverside, California to visit the cemetery where she was buried. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Gloria Ramirez was a
Riverside's somewhere
31-year-old
near Santa
woman
Barbara
diagnosed with
County.
cervical cancer. On February 19, 1994, around 8:15 p.m., Gloria Ramirez arrived at the Riverside General Hospital emergency room, where it was found that Ramirez's heart was beating at a rate too fast for her body. The medical staff
That's not
attempted to
good.
defibrillate, but soon noticed that
this
Ramirez's
was
body
like
was
the
covered in
bears
an
back
oily
then.
sheen, and that her mouth was emanating a strange, fruity, garlicky smell.
What the fuck?
I mean, could you even detect fruity garlic if it came down to it?
I bet they talked about it for 10 minutes and we're like, what is that? And then one of them was like,
Fruity
fruity
garlic.
garlic. And everyone was like, oh, yeah.
Either that or they were like, Jesus, Ken,
Yeah.
God, we have a patient here. A nurse named Susan Kane began to draw blood from Ramirez, and upon doing so, Kane noticed the blood had a chemical odor. Even stranger, medical resident Julie Gorczynski noticed the blood-filled syringe also contained strange manila-colored particles floating in
That
the blood,
ain't normal.
an observation also noted by attending physician Dr. Humberto Ochoa. Shortly after, Nurse Kane abruptly fainted. Kane stated that her face was burning and was escorted out on a gurney. This sparked a bizarre domino effect. Medical resident Julie
jeez.
Gorczynski complained of lightheadedness and also fainted. She shook and experienced apnea, a condition where a person stops breathing for a few seconds at a time.
If I were to hear, what?
I know, right? Directly after that, respiratory therapist Maureen Welch also collapsed. Here's a quote from Welch. Quote, "I remember hearing someone scream. Then I woke up. I couldn't control the movement of my limbs." End quote.
That
This
ain't
woman is
good.
like she sounds like the Manhattan Project.
In case you're
Yeah.
keeping score, that's 3 people that fainted. Other staff members reported feeling sick, and
Oh
the
man, this
hospital
reminds me
declared
of
an
the
internal
stories of where
emergency.
someone finds
All other
falls
patients were
into
evacuated to the
a
parking lot, and a small crew
a sewer
continued to work
hole,
to save
a
Gloria's
sewer
life.
pit.
It seems odd to evacuate all
They
of
try to
the
get him,
patients.
and they
Why?
try to get him
Maybe
out.
just
Then they
send
fall.
a stink
Then
bomb out to
they
the
lose
parking lot.
consciousness,
That is
and they
true.
fall
Why
in
didn't they
the
just, like,
shithole.
There had to be a
And
huge
then
amount
a lot of
of
people
work
drown
to
in
move
the
everybody
shithole.
else out. What if we take all of the patients outside and put them in the parking lot? Yep, good idea.
And then one guy in the back, you know, we could just...
Shut up, you idiot! We've already
Yeah.
decided.
However, at 8:50 p.m., Ramirez was
I
pronounced
guess she was
dead.
in a
The
more
body was
critical
moved into an
condition, to be
isolation
honest.
anteroom by 2 other staff members. Sally Balderas, a nurse who helped move the body, began to vomit and reported
Ugh.
feeling a burning sensation like Nurse
Don't
Susan
bring a
Kane.
barf.
Balderas was hospitalized for 10 days and experienced apnea like Gorczynski. Gorczynski, however, was in the worst shape of all, staying in intensive care experiencing a malady of issues, including avascular necrosis, a condition where
don't
bone
know what
tissue does
that
not receive enough
sounds.
blood and begins to die.
What?
She used crutches for months after hospitalization. All staff
I missed what he
members that
said,
had
so I'm
been
gonna
affected
look
by
that up.
Ramirez's body were treated in the parking lot, and their clothes were removed and put in bags out of fear of a toxic chemical. In the end, Ramirez's body affected 23 of the 37 emergency room staff, and 5 staff members were held in the hospital overnight.
You don't think though, like maybe one of them was like, oh, I feel sick, I gotta go home, and the other ones were like, yeah, me too, a burning pain, I gotta go home, I gotta go
You'd think this was all an elaborate.
That just reminds me of that scene in the person group where the guy's like,
about 2
I'm
hours
a
after
cow,
the
can I
incident,
go
a
home
hazardous
now?
materials
And
team
Ethan's
arrived
like,
in full hazmat
you're
suits.
dismissed.
They searched the hospital for 2 toxic chemicals that could possibly be responsible. However, no chemical was found. 6 days later, an autopsy was performed by the Riverside Coroner's Office in airtight suits in a newly configured airtight examining room. They took samples of blood, tissue, and even air from the body bag. Nothing conclusive came from the autopsy.
These hazmat guys will get it. They got an airtight
into
room.
the X-Files.
And then they're just like, yeah.
No, I don't know, man. It's just fucking weird.
Fucking weird.
County officials called her
I'm gonna
death,
Google that
quote,
too.
the most baffling in local history, end quote. And the mystery became a media frenzy. By the end, medical detectives from 10 different local, state, and federal forensic departments investigated the case. On April 20th, 1994, Gloria was finally buried in Riverside, California, a full 2 months after her death. So here we are. This is where she was buried. You know, cemeteries are always very spooky and eerie. Are you sniffing? What is wrong with you?
Let's see if it smells like fruity garlic.
Well, I'm yawning.
Christ. All right, we're gonna get back in the car if you're gonna keep doing that.
All right, well.
Pay our respects.
Sorry,
You know,
Gloria.
fruity garlic sounds like an
Weird way to die.
anti-vampire
cause of death
cocktail.
was cardiac dysrhythmia, caused by kidney failure due to her cervical cancer, and with that, the case was officially closed. However, the cause of the puzzling illnesses at the emergency room remained a mystery.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I was in that office and the guy was like, well, case closed. I feel like everybody else in the office was like,
You forgetting
you wanna
something?
Close that case?
With that being said, let's hop into some of the theories as to what occurred that night.
Ooh.
The first theory comes from the California Department of Health and Human Services.
Reputable, I think.
Well, I think this theory's bullshit, but
Okay, well, yeah,
Anyways.
it would be to you. The most reputable, logical, fact-based source. Yeah.
total horseshit.
Horseshit.
Who interviewed 34 emergency room staff members on duty that night. They concluded that the emergency room staff experienced a mass sociogenic illness, or mass hysteria,
I can
which
see
is
mass
defined as an
hysteria
illness with
happening.
no identifiable environmental cause, despite a group of people agreeing on a
I
set
think
of
like a few
experienced
people
symptoms.
had
Yeah, good.
the
Yeah.
legit
They
thing,
all just
the
imagined it at the
legit
same
effect,
time.
I mean,
effect,
that's happened
and
before.
then mass
There's a
hysteria.
bunch of those people in France who started dancing until they died.
What?
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
made that up right now.
It's a real thing,
I know
pal.
that.
I mean,
I know that
seriously,
real
that's all.
thing.
They pointed to the absence of poison in Gloria's system, and the fact that nobody in the ambulance on the way to the hospital had experienced any symptoms.
Maybe she had some sort of
Most
weird
mass
bacterial
sociogenic
thing.
illnesses have an environmental trigger that sets off the experiencing of symptoms. The California Department of Health identified the strange odor as this trigger.
You know, the mind is a powerful thing.
No.
Maybe she had a weird bacterial
Yeah, keep in
thing.
mind, 23
I've
of
had
the people were
some
affected.
bacterial
Not all of them were in
infections
that
a couple
room.
Word
times.
travels fast
They
in the
kind of
hospital.
They're all
smell
texting each other.
interesting.
Yo, go check out the fruity garlicky smell.
You
in
don't
grade
think?
5.
They were probably shouting down the hallways at each other.
However, Julie Gorchinsky, the medical resident most affected by the incident, filed a lawsuit for $6 million against the coroner's office and the hospital and disapproved of this explanation. Maureen Welch, the respiratory therapist, also felt she was not a victim of mass hysteria.
The whole idea of hysteria is that you don't realize it. You're not like, yeah, we all participated in a mass hysteria. It was a real riot. Gorchinsky was, man, she got fucked up. She was having a great time. What a fun
I just love that the name
Does it sound like a
Gorchinsky.
flash mob?
No, it's not a flash mob.
Okay. The second theory is from the Livermore Laboratory, who had discovered abnormally large amounts of a compound called dimethylsulfone in Gloria's autopsy samples. To explain this, they theorized that Gloria used an anti-inflammatory gel called DMSO to cope with her cancer pains. The gel would account for the garlicky smell and oily sheen. And interestingly
That could
enough,
be it.
DMSO is one oxygen atom away from the compound dimethylsulfone, the mysterious compound found in excess in Gloria's autopsy samples. The Livermore lab performed a test, combining DMSO with oxygen, much like the oxygen mask administered to Gloria that night. And the result was an oversaturation of dimethylsulfone to the point where white crystals were formed. Crystals that look similar to the manila-colored particles seen in Gloria's blood by the medical staff that night.
And how to get
And
her
with
blood?
that, they proved how the dimethylsulfone could have appeared. But the reality is that dimethylsulfone is still harmless. However, the team theorized that if the dimethylsulfone broke down, perhaps due to the electric shocks of the defibrillator as people on the internet have suggested, and then combined with natural sulfate compounds inside Gloria, it could form dimethyl sulfate, which is a strong chemical that can cause damage to the heart, liver, and kidneys. It also can cause paralysis, delirium, and convulsions, to name a few. Symptoms
Maybe it's
that are
theory one
uncannily
mixed
similar
with
to
theory
those
two.
experienced by the medical staff that night.
Well, there you go.
So essentially, there was an excess of this one compound.
Yeah.
And they figured that if this compound could break down and combine with sulfate, which sometimes occurs in bodies, it would cause this really, really poisonous compound.
And you don't believe this because?
You'll see. However, their theory that dimethyl sulfate was formed inside Gloria has been highly scrutinized by other scientists as impossible. And it's also worth noting that the Livermore lab did not run any tests to try and prove this theory or create a successful simulation.
Okay, so there were hypotheses.
In fact, the head of the lab himself admits it is merely a theory. Quote, "We've never said this is what happened, just that people should look into it," end quote. He backpedaled really quick.
Yeah, he really did.
Nonetheless, the coroner's office ran away with this theory and released a statement in November 1994 stating it as the most likely cause. The third theory is from the Ramirez family, who believes that the emergency room incident and Gloria's death were due to the hazardous conditions already present at Riverside General Hospital.
Yeah, there are some pretty shitty hospitals.
3 years before Gloria's death, 2 hospital employees were forced to receive medical treatment after a sterilizer may have leaked poisonous gas.
Oh, what?
3 years
Maybe it's
before.
a combination
Not
of all
great.
three of
No, it's
these.
not ideal.
The
Not a
three
great
theories
track
so
record.
far.
In 1993, sewer gas was found in the emergency room
Okay,
during an inspection.
that nasty.
Here's a quote from Gloria's sister Maggie. Quote,
Yeah,
"I honestly
nasty.
believe my sister may have lived if she hadn't gone into that emergency room that night. I don't know what the county is afraid of, but we want answers." End quote. There are 3 strange occurrences to support this theory and may suggest a possible cover-up from the county.
This goes all the way to the top. I don't know if we should be looking into this, Ryan.
Yeah, they're gonna
Some-
come after us.
Some stones are
They're gonna
best
come
left
after us with
unturned.
This
some
guy reminds me of my
oily
uncle
grass.
accidentally got his
We're gonna
finger
wake up
cut
tomorrow
off
morning, you have an oily
with the
sheet on your
chainsaw.
desk.
That's a calling card.
I can't
and
wait till this story is over so I never
was
have
hanging
to
on
say
by
the
some
word
skin.
ever again.
and
This is
he
a good
went
sheen.
I
to
don't like
the
it. It's too close to my name.
You don't want the
he
nickname
went to
Garlic
this
Shane?
the closest hospital.
No, I
And you're like,
don't.
just
The
sit.
first is that after
And
the
it wasn't
initial
like they
autopsy,
were
Riverside County
busy or
Deputy Coroner
anything.
Dan
They
Capito
were just
said
like,
that
sit
Gloria
and wait.
had not died from natural
They
causes.
didn't do anything for
But
like
after
30
the county
minutes.
revealed their official
And
autopsy
then my uncle
conclusions,
went up to the thing,
flip-flopped,
started cursing at him,
claiming Ramirez
and
had,
they
in
helped
fact,
him.
died from natural causes.
It's just like a shit hospital.
Capito.
Yeah, I knew it was you, Capito.
The second strange occurrence is that the initial investigator from the coroner's office, Stephanie Albright, a woman considered a top investigator, had committed suicide 1 month into the investigation. Deputy Coroner Dan Capito said that due to the case, Albright, quote, "may have been under pressure," end quote. The third and perhaps most peculiar occurrence
Also, I've been
was
to
the fact
the
that the syringe
hospital.
used to take Ramirez's
Malcolm
blood
too.
was accidentally
And it's got a
tossed
horror
out.
movie vibe
An
to it.
oversight that is especially curious when you consider the fact that the hospital even took the time to put staff members' clothes in bags in the parking lot that night.
Meanwhile, they're playing hot potato with a poison syringe.
With the poison syringe. Oh, this is like one of the weirdest scientific occurrences of all time. Yeah, bag that up, throw it in the
truck
trash.
it.
Kobe, threw it in. However, Tom
R.I.P.
DeSantis, the
Kobe.
Riverside County spokesperson, claimed the vents in the emergency room were checked by independent inspectors after Gloria's death, and nothing unusual or harmful was found. Yet, the Ramirez family maintains that something is being covered up and filed a malpractice and wrongful death lawsuit against Riverside County.
Each one of these theories that you're positing, they make more and more sense. The first one I was like, yeah, that could be it.
Comment
And
if
the
you
second one I was
yawned.
like, oh yeah, great. And now this third one is like, oh,
If
there's
you yawned
syringe
in
and
response to
poisonous
my
gas in
yawn.
the hospital? Yeah.
The fourth theory is from the internet, where many believe that the emergency room incident is a strong case for Gloria Ramirez being a victim of alien abduction.
Okay.
I believe in the
You
first
shut your
three,
mouth, I'm
Here,
done.
not the
difference between this
fourth.
theory and the other three?
Because the other three are based on facts and some pretty plausible, like, that's...
I think it was
shut up.
the
You're- I
combination
can't
of the first three.
This is...
But
I
the
thought
fourth
you were,
one
like, on the
ain't-
level on this
ain't part
one.
of it.
The first three theories were so
Oh
grounded
man,
in reality.
Brian just
and now you're
coughed.
just like,
He's
oh,
coughing.
Yeah, Bigfoot spooged
Drink
on his
some
chest.
water.
UFO enthusiasts cite her unusual reaction with the
Wait,
emergency room
splooged?
staff as evidence of extraterrestrial
What?
matter. Look, I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying it's a possibility. Can you say definitively this is not a possibility that she wasn't abducted?
I definitively cannot.
It's a theory then.
Well, get into the theory.
That is it. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Fuck you. That definitively did not happen. Because the theory then is just,
Maybe it was aliens.
maybe aliens, though.
After all these years, the mystery behind the strange occurrence at Riverside General Hospital endures the test of time. Was it a case of mass hysteria? Was this an improbable chemical reaction gone wrong? Perhaps this was a cover-up of poor hospital conditions. Or is this proof of something beyond science, possibly extraterrestrials? Regardless, no theory has been definitively proven, and the case of Gloria Ramirez remains unsolved.
Well, I guess you won't know until it happens again.
You know what happened? Is the aliens probably abducted her.
Oh, I can't wait to see where this is going.
Aliens probably abducted her. The aliens were like, all right, let's do our stuff. Let's do all our little tricks on her. Let's put a little probe up her butthole or whatever they do. And then they probably started throwing up. And they were like, holy shit! And one was probably like, we should evacuate the whole ship. And someone else was like, fuck that! Drop her off at a hospital!
Yeah, that was kind of funny. Now to look up avascular necrosis. Okay, avascular necrosis is the death of bone tissue due to lack of blood supply, also called osteonecrosis. It can lead to tiny breaks in the bone and the bone's eventual collapse. A broken bone or dislocated joint may interrupt the blood flow to a section of bone. So you don't want a decaying skeleton. That is the moral of the story. Later.